why do I have so much deep-seated anxiety? Why am I walking eggshells? Why am I living in jail in my head? Why am I creating all these scenarios? Like, it's hypervigilance.
Dan Ballard is a globally recognized mentor, TEDx speaker, and founder of the Prosperity brand, dedicated to breaking individuals free from mental barriers to create lives of freedom, meaning, and impact. With over 14 years in health, well-being, and performance coaching, Dan has guided countless clients and organizations to tap into their authentic voices and realize their fullest potential. What you're obsessed with right now.
I think what's happened since TED is I've gone, what do I really fucking do the best that no one else can do better than me? It's tied to my backstory, which is purpose. And I look for this in my students and clients is if I know your backstory, I can almost pinpoint where your purpose is. It's like, what else do I want to do for people? And I'm really thinking about people, right? And is it actually about them or is it more about me? That's something that's like, it's a deeply personal experience and I fucking love it. I want the type of prosperity that feels like when I close my eyes at night and when no one's looking, like I am so happy to be me. I own my voice. I am who I say I am. And I'm completely content with where I'm at in life, despite wanting more. Like for me, that's what prosperity is. Waking up every day with that. I saw enough to realize that it is so important in this day and age to know who you are. And if you don't know that, start to work that out. You don't have to be the best, I'm not the most successful person in the world, but I'm true to where my edge is located. And that makes me exactly who I need to be right now.
Dan, welcome to Flow Zone.
Thank you for having me. What a spot. What a spot.
It's a great spot. It's got a real flowy feel. I like purple as a flow color.
Yes, it's on brand with myself actually.
Oh, really? This is one of yours as well?
Purple highlight is my brand, yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. Well, Dan, as our listeners and viewers would have heard in the intro, you had an amazing TED Talk. And many of us have already seen it, heard it, or will go there after the show. But I'm not so much just interested in leading up to that, the journey, which was largely spoken about, even though that was a cut down talk. Mm-hmm. What I'm really interested in is how you've evolved since then and what you're obsessed with right now.
Great question. I love that. People haven't asked me that question. And you're the first, really. So that's cool. Like let's do a bit of an update. So I've had an interesting integration since TED. Straight off the bat, I got invited into speaking gigs all around. I got facilitation opportunities and lots of new exposure to people that I otherwise wouldn't have connected with, which is the best part of what I do is just connecting with new people. It's the love I have for people just carried through what I do. And I think since TED, there's been a profound shift, I think, in my composure. And also just the confidence that I feel in myself. And I think that, everyone has this barrier with speaking on some level. Even the thought of getting on stage for some people is a liken to the experience of what death could be like.
I hear that.
Yeah. And for most people, they do have this. And here's the cliche that we all hear, right? And it's life begins the other side of fear. So I did have those barriers. I knew it was always going to be a dream of mine to speak on stage. And, growing up, I knew that was going to be the case very early because of the person I wanted to become. And so, but when I got there, I realized it's like so much about myself and the experience I went through in life. And also because the topics I talk about on the TED Talk, it's not just me just spitting content. It's actually sharing real shit. Like it's real personal transformation. And because I have the depth of impact I've created in my personal and professional life, it just gives it more weight. So the journey for me was very profound in my own evolution. Like it's just a TED Talk. It's just a talk at the end of the day. But for me, it was a hallmark to my own personal journey. And I think after that, in many ways, I stepped back, I felt inspired, but I also have been in a deep reflection place. So really thinking about the angles in which I think. I've dove into new books and new insights into how I want to change my thinking as well, evolve my thinking. And just refining everything I'm doing and also building my business model in a different way to be more strategic, to support, I'd say, greater scale. So that's been the journey since then. And that's it.
I think that's a very worthy thing to be obsessing over. So you've already had an international stage, but I know with talks like that, like I remember doing a keynote at Australian Real Estate Conference in 2015. It was my biggest audience at the time, 5,000 paying guests.
Yep.
And I remember looking at, like I was given a keynote slot, which is an hour when most speakers are 15 minutes. And I was thinking, yes, I've got an hour. And then it got cut to 45 because there was a new international speaker that came and I had to take 15 minutes out. And I'm like, the message is going to be robbed. And I did it that many times to refine it. And I found a lot of value in refining it. And I'm like, what am I actually saying here? And what impact am I hoping? Well, actually, what impact am I transferring to people here?
Yep.
I imagine with a TED Talk, it's even shorter. We're like 10 minutes, which I find great for punchiness, but they're almost like adverts to more thinking. So tell us, what is a viewer or a listener that's watched your TED Talk and hearing how much your thinking's evolved since then, tell us what's evolved the most. Like, what are you obsessed with right now?
Okay. What am I obsessed with right now? Owning the power of your voice. I'm currently taking, so I ran an open workshop off the back of, I'd say it was more of a masterclass. I ran a masterclass online. I got some news actually that I really like the team at TED and TEDx in Cooks Hill. I really like the team and I was offered a position to be a curator, selector and a coach of the speakers this year.
Wow.
So I took that.
Good on you.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, the platforms, I believe in the platform. I think it's fantastic. And the process in itself, like we're talking about the process now, like yourself, man, I can speak, I run events in Bali, immersions, which are essentially keynoted and facilitated across 7-8 days sometimes. And I'm talking from 6 a.m. right through to 8 o'clock at night. And the window of preparation for that for me is quite small in comparison to a 15-minute slot for a TED Talk. Like, so to hear what you say with, I had this 1 hour talk planned and then they had to cut me to 45, it makes me go, I know what you're going through. I know what you would have went through. But the beautiful thing that happens when that happens, right? And in my experience, this is the case too, is that when we're challenged like that, it really challenges us to think about, okay, what am I really saying? Why am I really saying it? Like, what is my true through line here? Like, what carries through the whole talk? Where am I leading my audience? And is it actually about them or is it more about me? So for me, that's been the thing since the TED Talk for me is actually greater meaning and greater. I guess the first real dream of mine was to get on that stage. Because imagine what it would feel like. This is my own inner self, my inner psychological self, and I guess where I've come from. It's like imagine what it would be like to be confident and respected by people. That's one of my earliest dreams. Imagine what it would be like to have this assurance in myself and to be respected and helping other people. So that's why I say it's a hallmark for me. It creates this point where it's like, okay, this is done, and now it's and I learned this through TED firsthand as well too. That it's about the audience. But ironically, at the same time, it's a bit of a paradox. It's not. I see you've got Rick Rubin's book here, The Creative Act. He talks about in his podcast with Lewis Howes about the audience coming last, which is which I agree with, right? Is we do our best work when we're focused on our own life's work and not so much on, all right, I have to fit the mold of what people want from me and expect from me. So I think since TED, brother, I think what's happened since TED is I've gone, what do I really fucking do the best that no one else can do better than me? And I know that there's been these common threads and these patterns in my life, and it's tied to my backstory, which is purpose. I really believe, and I look for this in my students and clients, is if I know your backstory, I can almost pinpoint where your purpose is and how I can get into that state. And I look at it as a state, and I look at my own state like during the lead up to TED and also after TED, and I realized that so much about what I do is about owning your voice. So I ran a speakership masterclass. I had 74 people join up for that. So I was quite blown away by it. I didn't expect. I was like, okay, great.
Let's turn up to something like that, especially if it's one of your early masterclasses.
Yeah, let's throw it down. And then from there, I really identified what I wanted to. I sat back. I was like, okay, cool. There's people here, and the feedback was insane for a Zoom masterclass. Like I had people. I can't show them here on the screen, but some of the testimonials just from one workshop was insane. And I was like, I need to do something with this. And I didn't plan on it because I've got my mastermind running at the moment for the Prosperity Mastermind. But And I was like, I know I need to, on the back of this news with me being selected to actually curate and coach these speakers and share that dream of mine with them and then bring theirs to life. I was like, what else do I want to do for people? And I'm really thinking about people, right? What is holding people back the most? And it's like, it's this piece around owning your voice, and which your voice is so much more than just your verbal dialogue, and also your choice of words, which is what people get hung up on. They get stuck in their head. They get squeezed up in their head about what I need to say. But it's so much more about like how you're saying it. And then there's even deeper aspects to communication. It's really 4 layers of communication. And that's what owning your voice, I really look at in owning your voice, is the 4 layers of communication and helping people really harness the power of their own voice, not the performative voice, not the mold that everyone expects from them, not their favorite podcaster or their favorite quote unquote guru. It's like, what is your voice? What's it about? What's your backstory? Where are your barriers? Like, where are some certain things we can shift in your skill set? But mainly, the most powerful work will be in your interpersonal skills. And that's something that's like, it's a deeply personal experience, and I fucking love it.
I love your conviction on it.
Yeah.
And I can actually sense it from you. I know we caught up just a little while ago. I was introduced to you by another man that we both know.
Yep. Shout out Brett.
Yeah. Shout out Brett Stafford. He's just become our chief performance officer in not too distant past, and he's crushing it.
Great to hear.
And he's got a mandate, purpose and potential. That's for him. And it resonated so well with us. And when he came to me, I'd known him for 15 plus years through other kinds of business. I knew he'd had a stint in real estate, but I just kept remembering the style of leader character he was. He was so calm with who he was.
Sure.
And what journey he was on and what phase of the journey he was on. And I sort of took it positively. I think other people took it as being dismissive and don't bother because he's on this family trip or whatever, but he's basically saying, look, I'm not sure if I'm going to communicate with you when I'm back, but this is what I'm doing right now. And he was just really clear about that. But he came to me after an audio I'd put out to the real estate industry, and he heard it. It was like a 45-minute talk straight off the top of the dome. I was interviewed like in a phone call setting, and it ended up being one of my probably most connected pieces that I've done. Again, straight off the top of the dome, but it came from deep within. And he heard it and he goes, I get it. I'm exhilarated by the scale of this role. I want to talk to you further about it. And it was like an accidental advert for the role that I was creating.
Cool.
So there's a lot of synchronicity in that. And I can see in you and experience in you the level of evolution since your talk.
Yeah. Which I haven't, and it's beautiful that you can see that, because I haven't, as I said, no one's asked me that question yet. So it feels good we all want to express us. That's the power of owning your voice, right? We all have this deep longing in our nature to be able to express ourselves, hopefully with the whole aspect of ourselves, which again, this is talk about those layers of communication. We deeply desire being able to express and articulate with the whole aspect of ourselves and hopefully have that clearly and well represented. So when it comes to Brett is, people might have what they have to say about, what it should be like or how it should be like, or if he's the right fit. But then the clarity in his conviction to say, this is it. This is we're doing this. That's what a lot of people hope to get to in their life is that level of conviction. To me, that's what influence really is. It's like, okay, I own what I'm about to say, this role or whatever's in front of me here. I've got conviction for this. That's where I'm heading. And that's the decisive nature behind strong communication. Yeah.
We're in an age at the moment that is undoubtedly the age of AI.
Yeah.
And personal brands.
Yep.
And both of these things are expanding at a rate of knots. And people are sort of coming to grips with it. And with your talks about, the need or desire for validation and authenticity and showing up in a certain way.
Yep.
I know I found a lot of challenge in that, particularly when I was on the front line in professional services.
Yep.
And it wasn't that long ago. And you've talked about wanting to do a TED talk so you could be that authentic and command that kind of respect or whatever the words that you used were. And I think on my side of the equation, I always found brands and a version thereof them, personal brands and a version thereof them, a challenge because I was in an industry, well, I still am. I'm still part of the property industry, even though I'm in lots of ventures now, where I'd always been taught, don't talk about politics. Don't
Yep.
talk about religion.
Yep.
Don't talk about, race. Don't
Yeah.
talk about preferences on any of those big topics.
Trained to be, yeah, I get it.
Like they do at school,
Sure.
let's just be sort of something to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't nothing to no one. I know I made a huge impact in a lot of people's lives, but it wasn't actually my voice that was making an impact. It was probably my intentions, the models I'd built, and in personal conversation, we
Yep.
get to know each other really well. But now, like shorter attention spans and the way that we come to know someone is really, we know about them first and what they're on about, during that process, hopefully. So I look at that and I do ask the question, like there's a move towards going to massive authenticity, but I can't help thinking how much of a risk that is to people that are in professional services or some sort of role like a mayor or whatever that needs to kind of be something for everyone. How did they find their voice?
Ooh. Oh, that's a great question. This is awesome.
Yeah.
How did they find their voice? That's a personal question. So
Got to get the jacket off for this one.
I would look at, again, backstory plays a key role in this and understanding your purpose. If your purpose is to ruffle feathers and build a controversial personal brand, then go talk about politics. You know what I mean? Go talk about politics. Go talk about race theory. Go talk about all these others. Raise all these confliction points if you want to. The problem we have with AI is AI. It's gonna do what it's gonna do, and people have a lot of, whether they realize it or not, there's a lot of unconscious fear around that. And I think people who know who they are going to succeed, and they're going to find more affluence. They're going to create more impact. We're already seeing this right now as people they have an eye for seeing what's written by AI, what's not. I see a lot of very, very well-composed speakers online and on really good social media profiles. I meet them in person. There's no depth. There's no independent thought. I'm like, oh, you've just lost your credibility with me. What a shame. And that isn't a shot at them. It's just like, I've seen enough. Do you know what I mean? So
You've got different filters too.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. And I think, so when we talk about authenticity and AI, use of AI, it's useful, but it's a tool. And if you rely heavily on that tool, like it's only going to take you to a certain level. And this is why when I talk about owning your voice, we've got to understand, when I talk about politics, why do you want to talk about politics? Like, I think fundamentally something that's been guiding my life, like we're all figuring it out. No one has it all sorted. And I think every time I've been in a friction point in my life, whether it be personal controversy, whether it be a lot of deeply challenging things happening, and I'm very, very deeply challenging things happening, I've always orientated towards why. So questioning things. Why am I doing this? Why do I want to live this way? Why is this going on? Why do I feel like this? And for someone who is coming out of such I would say a box into a bit of flow, into like, oh, where can I take this? Like, there's a bit more fluidity now. And then we have and I've got these fear walls. We're going to bounce off the wall and going to bounce here and there. We start playing a different game. The thing you can start to ask yourself is, okay, if I do want to go down this avenue, why do I want to do it? Like a lot of people right now, you see, they'll go on ChatGPT, they'll say, give me 20 of the most controversial topics to talk about, and they'll do some reels on it. All right. But it's like, well, why are you doing that? And again, whether it's AI or it's like you found the perfect mentor that told you to coach this way or speak this way, people will be able to tell through these 4 layers of communication. They'll be able to tell whether you're authentic or not. And authenticity is not a performance. It's not something you have to try and do.
What's the 4 layers here of communication?
I think we have to give more context, right?
Okay, yeah, give us more.
So most people get hung up on what they say. Like, I would say 90% of society focus on, I have to say this way, otherwise it's not valid, or I'm not valid, which is the underlying belief story, right? Yeah. I'm not valid and worthy of speaking. A lot of people have that belief. Is that, why would people listen to me?
It kind of like imposter syndrome / anxiety.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we can blanket that as like so my masterclass I ran was overcoming self-sabotage and self-doubt. Mm-hmm. That's really the thread of it all. Like that's what encapsulates all of that. And then there's all these different threads of certain belief structures, and then we have patterns that we've recognized, and there's lots going on. Now, it's just self-doubt, self-sabotage. So most people get stuck on that first layer and thus never fully discover the power of their own voice. That's at the top of. Let's just look at it as a hierarchy, okay, like a triangle. We'll build it we'll build this up. So the top of the hierarchy, we have what you say, which is where most people hang, and then we have how you say it. It's your tonality. Mm-hmm. It's you've said this before. It's like you felt something from me as I talk about it. I watching this back, I might say, "Fuck, I said that the wrong way," but it didn't really matter in the first place. It was quite literally about how I said it and what you picked up. All right, let me show you something. Actually, can you see on this cup? Can you see how if you look at the bottom, it's got this very, very nice, I'd say, semi-thin base, and then it travels up, and then we've got a gold thing on the top.
Yeah.
Can I ask you why the fuck you listen to me? Like why
you're gesturing towards it. You're using body language. You drew my attention there, and you asked me to do something.
So you're already switched on, but this has nothing to do with our conversation.
Yeah.
But what it does say, the reason you follow me is because there's a level of assurance. There's something else going on deep down that you're gonna. It's not about what I say, as I've just demonstrated. It's about how I'm saying it, and even deeper, it's my intent, it's my self-esteem, and this is the bottom of the hierarchy. So this is the stuff that's communicated subliminally that people don't consider and maybe don't develop, and it's the most important part of our communication as species. And in my TED Talk, I really talk about this polarizing idea, and it's an idea I've had to overcome myself around the paradox of likability. Like a lot of people say, I don't give a fuck what people think. You care what people think. And you should, because you want to be liked. And it's the same thing in our communication is you want to be a good communicator. It will literally help you achieve much greater impact in people's lives. You're going to make a lot more money. You're going to have a lot greater life. You're going to have a lot better impact on people and influence others. Like, why wouldn't you not want to be a better communicator? Since we are so socially wired and driven, like it makes no sense. So when we get into the deeper layers, these are subliminal communication. Most of our communication that we elicit is through nonverbal activity. It's not what I say, it's how I say it. And then even deeper, it's like my intent or my presence.
Like why you're saying it.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, it's intent, the presence. It's like how a lot of people, when they talk, they're here and they're not really here. Like we're saying with ChatGPT, they might know what they're talking. They might know these ideas. They might know how to talk about growth work or personal development work, which is very, very hot. But it's like just because you know how to speak about it doesn't mean you know about the work. And then that's where it's felt, and people go, trust gone, because they're like, he hasn't done the work. I don't feel that from him. There's no authenticity. There's no resonance. He has not been where he's talking about. And that's the thing with mentorship. Is like mentorship for me is like, all right, I've walked a certain path. Let me show you a way to look at things that I've learned in retrospect and also through firsthand experience that I've actually found success in. Perhaps you can too. I'm going to work to understand you first, and then we're going to guide you towards looking and seeing correctly for yourself. So when we start to go into the deeper aspects of communication, this subliminal communication, it's like, yeah, presence. It's got to do with like, it's got to do with, what can I say here as well too? Yeah, let's just stay there with the presence aspect. It's like it's your intent as well too that you have there. Like if you're coming into a conversation and there's an underlying, I need to manipulate this person to get what I want, they're going to feel that. Right?
It's sort of where you're speaking from.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like where is this coming from?
Same with the origins of your story. If your origin of your story is, because humans have told stories for millennia, and they're more powerful now than they ever have been. When we talk about personal brands, stories are behind that. So we've always told stories, and the better you are at telling stories, the better communicator you will be. And if you're telling a story that isn't grounded and you haven't fully integrated it, meaning you're probably still in pain from it, you're not talking from wisdom, you're talking from just insight, you maybe even a bit of pain. When that gets properly integrated and you properly integrate into yourself, that's where that subliminal communication becomes even more stronger. All right. And then the deepest layer is the self-assurance layer. That's where our self-esteem comes from. As I said, like I could take you, we could start talking about, we could have gone from this cup to this bottle to this back to this book, and you would have gone, hang on, we're off topic. It's about my overall self-esteem. You know, that's the thing. There's a lot of people that are far less qualified than us, you know, taking stages with this outrageous, reckless belief in themselves, and they're winning because they just have that reckless belief. There's something else going on, and I think that the way we can truly own our voice, not just for our impact in the world around us. We're talking about worldly influence right now, but I want the type of prosperity that feels like when I close my eyes at night and when no one's looking, like I'm so happy to be me. I own my voice. I am who I say I am, and I'm completely content with where I'm at in life, despite wanting more. Like for me, that's what prosperity is. Waking up every day with that.
I really like it how you've called your company Prosperity as well. One of mine's called Presence.
Lovely.
And we've been talking about that. I recently read the book by Ann Cuddy on presence. Yep. And she talks about something similar to you talk about in your TED talk around status is evolutionary. You know, like people in tribes, you're protected if you've got status. There's other people who align with you.
Yep.
I think that's coming full circle more than ever. Yep. Now, ideas can spread quickly. I mean, TED, ideas worth spreading, but social media, AI, all the things we're talking about, personal brands. And I feel like there's an opportunity for us to become more human at this time.
Yes. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Well, on that topic, I have heard you speak about, and I will weigh in on this, but I want to hear your input on it first. I've heard you speak about that, you know, AI is an AI thing. As you just said before, it's going to happen anyway. It's happening whether we like it or not. But being more human in a world of AI is going to be an advantage. And you made a comment in one of the talks I've seen recently where you said, until people start like putting things inside themselves like chips or whatever and sort of doing things that are irreversible.
Transhumanism.
Yeah, transhumanism. Tell me more about your concerns with that and, you know, what that looks like for you if it plays out that way.
With the concerns, sorry, I need to make sure I understand correctly. My concerns in what way?
I'll say, So tell us about your concerns about the transhumanism if people start inserting chips into themselves and having AI as a voice inside them, or at least part of their operating system.
Yeah, okay. So to make sense of that, or to give you context to that question before I answer it, I'm a spiritual teacher. I maybe don't come across that way, but I've taught all around the world spirituality, particularly in yoga and meditation. And I've learned through lots of various different cultures. Really, the goal of my spiritual quest over a decade has been a very, very simple one. Like I've sat in monasteries with. One of my teachers is a Buddhist monk of coming up to 20 years. I've learned so much, but if I reduce everything down to a very, very simple understanding for the most basic level of thought, it's like the most spiritual question you ask yourself is, how comfortable are you with being who you really are in each environment you find yourself in? And that's your innate ability to rest in who you are. So if my question here is, if you're outsourcing yourself or constantly, and your sense of worth and also your next idea hinges on something external, just like a drug, like who are you? Where are you located? Like what is that? Where is that coming from in you? And what I will say is that my concerns is that if we go too far in one direction, we lose context to what really matters, and that is the essence of who we really are. So I think in the right hands, as I say, it's important to know yourself. In the right hands, AI is a fantastic tool to help you refine you. I've even noticed changes in my intellect from using it. And it's made sense because I have a bit of I would say, neurodivergent mind, and
same,
which I identify as absolute brilliance. Like who else could sit there and hyper focus for hours on end on what I love about, but then also the things I can't. Like if I'm so easily distracted. If I'm on social media, I get stuck on social media, and I see those videos pop up that I don't know. You see paint get thrown at a wall or whatever, and they start all that. I'm there. Now
it's got exactly what's going to work for you.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing to answer that question around what my fears are is like the human spirit is very, very strong, and I believe in it more than any other fear around AI and where things are going to go. Like I believe that is so important. For me, I got no fear at all because I know who I am and I'm connected to that, to the higher perspective. And I love that more than I do anything else. So, but what my concerns are for other people is, and I saw this through COVID, is and what I also know about human behavior from my the depth of my studies over many, many years is that the psyche needs something to believe in. It needs something to believe in. And we will work, like if you don't know who you are and you also maybe don't know the creator or God, then you'll devote all of your focus on money. You'll worship money. And I think we see this as well too. Some people worship celebrities. They, we need something to essentially, the psyche needs something to pin itself against and go, that is great.
Like that's important.
Yeah, that's important. It's meaning. We're all in that. That's what I'm saying. No one knows what the fuck they're doing. We're all in this quest, and we're trying to map out meaning for ourselves, right? And but the funny side, the other side of the coin is nothing actually means anything until we assign that meaning to it. Like reality has no meaning until we assign it meaning. So it's like, okay. My concerns is that if people orientate themselves too far in one way without the coordinates that I believe need to be part of your life experience in a really deeply integrated way, I think it can cause a lot of trouble. And I think it will. I saw this through COVID where people jumped on, like it was a time of what I would call, it is quite literally mass formation and caused by mass hysteria. A lot of, and I did put out a lot of controversial views, but it was because I'm so deeply researched in human behavior, understand how psychology works, understand manipulation and power. And when I saw it working down firsthand from the day I was running an international retreat and I got told we had to fly home because of the quote unquote COVID. And I was the first plane at the airport that got sent into what we know as the first isolation. So it's like you got to go into isolation. I was like, what does that look like? Like everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? And I just so I caught the train down. I didn't drive. Like, you want me to get on a train if I've come from Bali and I've got this deadly disease? Why are you leaving me on the train?
Yeah.
So then that's where my questioning started. I started sharing that, and I saw a lot. Like, this isn't a criticism of human. Like, I really don't believe. As I said, we're all trying to figure things out, but I saw a lot. I saw enough to realize that it is so important in this day and age to know who you are. And if you don't know that, start to work that out. Work with someone that can help you find that. Sit your meditations, disconnect, take time away from these platforms, these vehicles that are fantastic, but can also help. They can also contribute to you missing the mark.
So like I can definitely feel that coming through with a lot of your teachings, and I definitely resonate with the advantages of doing these distancings from time to time and coming back to what's really important. So just take that as that is already part of me. There's another part of me that I'm playing with this theory at the moment, which kind of flies in the face of what I've heard you say about things like irreversible things, like once we've got a chip inside ourselves or once we're relying on something like artificial to help guide our life in one way or another. And it's like, I believe that nature was already doing technology before we were. And it is rooted in some evidence, but I'm still under theory with this. So hermit crabs, prime example. Like a shell, they weren't born with that shell. They went and got that shell and made it part not only of their life, but of them.
Yeah.
Like it is now part of their body. Now they can leave it at any time. And I suppose if we look at this like AI, we can bring AI into our body, like inside our body. Because we've been using technology and tools just like animals have for years. And we continue to advance the technology. Like when you look back now, it seems ridiculous that we didn't have machinery to farm with. But at the time, it would have been like, what the hell's going on? We're not humans anymore. Yeah. And it's like, we start broadcasting things over these waves.
Just imagine what it'd be like, right? You're in the field, you're in the field, like picking all the crop, and then suddenly the tractor comes along.
Yeah.
And 60 people are put out of a job because 3 people are sitting on a tractor. Like it's the same feeling.
It would have been a lot at the time.
Yeah.
And I look at what's been happening in nature the whole time, the hermit crab with the shell. I then looked up, there's another type of fly, and its larvae, like it actually gets like external pieces of shell and materials, even gold. And it makes an exoskeleton to protect it from predators and make sure it gets through to that next phase. Now that is bringing technology into its own existence. That's been happening for eons. And then something that's a bit closer to humans, the dolphins, probably one of the most intelligent species other than humans. Who knows, they could be more intelligent. Now, they pass wisdom through generations. It's been proven that they pass down certain dolphins. They find sea sponges. Mm-hmm. They get them just the right size to fit over their bottlenose, and they use that as a protective thing to get deeper and get more food and more nourishing food whilst protecting their nose as well. Now, they didn't get born knowing to hunt for sea sponges. It gets passed down. So I look at that and I say, okay, well, if we're the most evolved of the species, and we're definitely the most evolved in technology, it didn't mean we started it, but I see AI as potentially being our deliberate evolution.
Yeah.
Just like
maybe it was already here.
Well, it could have been, and now we're just tapping into it.
Tapping into it, right?
How do we access the internet? Like, it was already here. Satellite abilities to broadcast across space was already here.
And I love that you're, and so this is the beautiful thing, Mark, is we can have different beliefs and different experience. We all have our own, when it comes to owning our voice, right? I love that you have literally said, oh, it flies in the face of what you're saying. And I love that. Let's hear it. Like, this is what's missing in society right now. It's like people are they cling so tightly to their beliefs, like they are who they are, when it's like that's the problem, whereas we're so convicted we're so married to our ideas that we don't actually have the power and the ability to evolve past it, right? And you see this through politics. Like, it's
prime
like
example.
Prime example. But I love that, and I love that you're creating theories, because really, when we look to history, or the history we're told, that's just a theory. Like, it's told by a certain side that maybe have an agenda that they've pushed and won against, and then so it's like everything we've told could be. I'm not going to say too controversial. Everything we've told could be a lie. Right? So what if on the back of what I've just said there, what if AI was already here? We've just found a way to connect with it. And maybe that does take us off track, or maybe that does take us towards realizing, okay, well, how were the pyramids built?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, there's actually a great doco on this. I want our listeners and viewers to see it. Have you ever seen Ancient Apocalypse?
Yeah,
it's like a Netflix series.
Graham Hancock.
Yeah, the journo guy. He's like the Michael Moore of like the pyramids.
So,
but he doesn't annoy me as much as Michael Moore.
Intellectuals hate him. Like they a lot of the
archaeologists,
intellectual archaeologists, they hate him.
Why's that?
Well, the same thing I'm saying now is it presses on. Here's how to think. This is how it went.
Yeah.
Go and dedicate your entire life thinking this way. Here's this guy with a completely different theory, you know, that maybe has some resonance, and also has, for what I see, it's like, I want to hear this.
Yeah,
like,
I do too. I like it the way he's posed it. Like, he's used his journalistic skills to raise enough intrigue.
He's very influential.
Yeah, but I really like it. Like, I hear his repetition on the way through the episodes, but, you know, even on the intros.
Yep.
But the archaeologists, you know, they hate me because I'm exposing something. And he's not saying it's definitely true. He's saying, we need to go deeper here. I want to call on other people to do this research. I can't afford to do it on my own. But when you look at the points around the compass of all these examples that Graham Hancock's talking about, of like the retelling of sort of religious style tales where a godly figure appears with all these other people, and there was a great flood, which happens to coincide with the Ice Age ending and waters rising, and then Noah's Ark and everything that goes with it. And then it ties into these buildings where they've got other forms of evidence that they could be substantially older, and that the human markings could be substantially older. And I suppose I like the way he's posing a question, or look at something that we assume as being solid. And it goes along the lines of Dan Sullivan's thinking, who wrote the book Gap in the Gain and Who Not How. And he talks about, you know, if we're in the gap, we're in scarcity. If we're in the gain, it's because we feel that we're having a win. Now, we've got the ability to reframe any experience, and a belief is just a decision, right? So, like, if we look at our past, we have an apparition of what our past was. So and our memory changes all the time of it. But you know, the only person that can validate our past is us.
Yeah.
No one can go inside your lived experience and tell you what really happened. There might be external events, which are all just snapshots of someone's opinion at the time.
And the same with like what I love about, and look at someone like the work of Gabor Mate, right? What I'm really liking in my own personal deep diving is like no one experiences, you might have I have two other brothers, so I have family. Three of us together, and we all experience. We can all experience our childhood very differently, based on when we were born, the position we have in the herd, like i.e., maybe I'm the second born, maybe I'm the first. We will not experience the same childhood as what our brother, who's 2.5 years apart, did.
I've got to say this quote.
Yeah, go.
It's a Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Yep, go.
I've got my own past and I cannot lie. My other brothers can't deny. It just popped into my head when you were saying.
Of course, it popped in your head. So you're a DJ. On a deeper level, you identify still as a DJ.
Yes, I still identify as.
Yeah. So there's all these. See, I mean, that's what we've gone so far. I feel like where we are going wrong is we're so married to certain. Yes, things need to be a certain way, and you have to think like this. I see this a lot. I've had a long history. It started within myself as I was so deeply misunderstood internally, and I trod on eggshells my whole entire life until I essentially had my hand played, and I had to learn who I was quite literally for my survival. Like I was contemplating taking my life at one point, and when I started that journey of why do I have so much deep-seated anxiety? Why am I walking eggshells? Why am I living in jail in my head? Why am I creating all these scenarios? Like it's hypervigilance, right? So, and then.
Which is also evolutionary along the lines of the hypervigilance. Like I heard an expert on this speak recently about it on Stephen Bartlett's show about anxiety has exactly the same biological markers, I think, as determination.
Yes.
And then with ADHD and other neurodiversities, you're scanning, looking for things that could go wrong because you're that one with a really sensitive instrument, like a really good condenser mic. You can pick up someone going like this.
Yep.
In the corner.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that.
Yeah, and that's the gift of imperfection. I have a theory to add to that.
Please do.
So this is my theory when I work with people. It's like I'm not a psychologist. I do study psychology. It's like for my own personal interests. Now, what if we can control the type of anxiety we experience? A lot of people will say, a lot of people who identify as quote unquote an anxious person, someone who I was once before. So I'm talking from experience, so don't feel like I'm attacking you. But we can control which type of anxiety we see. There's two types. There's fear with positive anticipation, okay, which is excitement.
It's like butterflies.
And then there's fear with negative anticipation. And that is anxiety. All right. But we can control which one we see by using our mind, the instrument of our mind, by the way we live in our frame, and the way we orientate our perspective and frame up our thinking based on our own psychological context of how we see ourselves in the world. We can see anxiety as a fear of. We can feel anxiety as a pulse, as something, an alert system that's guiding us towards acting or feeling connected to life, or we can feel it as this detrimental, like, shit, what's going to happen? Like, I'm going to envisage the worst case scenario and live completely identified in the future, and I'm going to live there, and I'm going to miss my whole life because of that. Like, that's just how important it is so my work is in helping people overcome the mental prison. Like that's one of the key things I focus on, is helping them understand the nature of the mind and help them realize they are not their mind.
Yeah. And
then that's when the journey to freedom, both internally, emotional freedom, and also external freedom starts with understanding that all battles that we experience are either going to be won or lost in the mind. We think it's out external, but it's not. It's always internal. And our reality, circumstances, events, situations, they will present us with the reflection that points back to us, things we need to listen to, learn, and integrate so that we can move towards a whole perspective of how we see ourselves and the world around us. And until we get that, we can't live an enlightened, full perspective on what our life experience is all about.
Oh, look, I think this work you're doing at the moment, Dan, is like so critical. So critical.
It's essential. I believe in it wholeheartedly, 110%. I think everyone should be doing it.
I feel like this is your ikigai.
It is.
And I've been dialing into ikigai
I saw that on your story. You said you put it up. Yeah, you're studying that.
So I've been obsessed with purpose over the last couple of years. I think it's always been there, but I think that my path of self-awareness on the way to self-actualization and that full authenticity, like what I had sort of dreamed about, particularly when I was like a selling agent, one of Australia's top agents. I got all these crowns, I got all these awards.
You made it.
And well, in their eyes, you know, and I was grateful for the acknowledgement, but I didn't feel like it was as much of a win. I was much more into, this isn't a systemized, scalable, sustainable, and saleable business I'm doing. I'm just winning on this measurement. Or in the way that I was delivering real estate, I thought my impact hasn't been enough yet, because I'm passionate about creating a model that's better for consumers, that every player wins, which is what I was on about with Friendly Auctions that I spoke about at that event in 2015. And then I think, you know, this is kind of two-parted this. What accelerated my desire to really go deep on purpose, on my personal purpose, my dharma, my destiny path, my hero's journey, my ikigai, I suppose was when there was a bunch of compounding things happening at once. And, you know, like as I've talked to you about, I went through like my equivalent of a fall from grace, you know, 18 years in the industry, at the top of the industry, like top 0.1%. Most serious practitioners in the industry I could call and they would know who I am. They'd take my call, they'd answer it, probably first name basis. And people had vouched for me constantly. And then, you know, I had the media telling a story about me, which was largely doctored up by competitors, which I'm detached from that now. It was horrible at the time. Right. And I've said this before. I feel like it's when I hear about people talk on stage about having something horrible like cancer or the loss of a loved one, and they say that I would never want to go through that again. But I'm glad and grateful that I have, and who I've become through it, or what I've shed away to let my real self shine through. They're eternally grateful for. And I am actually the same. I'm still in this transformation period at the moment. And I suppose that the big question I've got for you here, and we will run out of minutes soon, is that most people that I've had an authentic convo like this on have been on an arc, but they've had like a fall from grace first. They've had some moment, a loss of a family member, a public humiliation, financial ruin, someone's left them in the middle of a meeting or anything like that. Do you believe it's fundamentally necessary for someone to experience that in order to be able to find themselves and get to full authenticity?
I would my knee-jerk reaction is to say yes, but what I will say, I think for men it's essential that maybe we always get what we need, not what we want. This is the spiritual perspective, is that...
Is this different for men than women? I know you coach a lot of men, but you've meant for men then.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to say broadly, you are better for getting what you need to support where you're going, or maybe what you need to learn at this point in your life. You're better for getting what you need, not what you want. So I think if you can become someone, regardless of what's like, let's just keep this here. You're better off for getting what you need, not what you want. And if you can accept that and like welcome that from a place of like gratitude, then you are going to experience a better life, because you're committed to the learning process, and you also have surrendered part of your ego and the will that wants to control everything. There's quite limited. Like a willpower is very, very strong, and it's a very important tool, but there is a much, much bigger play happening here, and you need to learn with it. You can't work against it for too long. You'll be humbled. I work with people who are very, very, very successful, and I work with people who have experienced a lot of loss, like myself, and 1 minute they're on cloud 9 and they're not. And I've seen enough in the beautiful thing I've learned by being a mentor. Some of my greatest teachers have been my students, and my clients. And I openly say that with full humility, to say like, I have learned so much from my people and the people I've worked with and helped, and they've helped me as well. I've got so much perspective to share on life, and because I've worked with so many different cultures and different types of people. Like I've worked with peak performers, I've worked with everyday people, I've worked with mothers who are single mothers looking to make ends meet. Like that's a task in itself. It's like,
it'd be hard to resonate with them as well when you You
Yeah.
do like
So-
have special groups.
So I think to answer that question, men and women differently, I will talk. I don't know firsthand because I'm not a woman, but I can say for a man, I believe he's. I believe that trauma is absolutely necessary for a man to truly step into his most confident, dominant, and loving frame that he possibly can, because he has to meet the darkness in him to turn that into light, or at least know it, to know who he is inside. Like the good, the bad, the ugly, so he can integrate it safely into society, into his life and into society in a really meaningful way.
I think subconsciously, I actually had that thought almost as a wish, as a subconscious wish at some point.
Power to you, brother.
At some point, so, and I'm not saying I enjoyed the feeling. I just felt at some point, the haters are going to get their way. I know I'm doing, but I was a bit of a victim in that. To the universe, I was a bit of a victim. And I think I'll do a reflection on this later. I'm going to need some time to unpack it because that's a beautiful perspective you've given. So we're about to wrap. It's gone so quick. We've been flowing. I've got one question for you to leave, and it's got to be a punchy answer because I want more people to hear this and see this. What's something that any one of our listeners and viewers can do or be or hold as an intention right now to become more authentic?
You've built a brand around presence. I'd say come into your frame. So I spoke about this. Frame is our psychological context of how we see ourselves and the world around us. Particularly for a man, you've got to get more authentic. You have to get comfortable in your own frame, which is in a way. Before that happens, you have to get uncomfortable. So I would say the most is don't focus on the act of trying to be authentic. Focus on coming into your frame, and that for you will be very different to the person next to you. What does it mean to truly come into your frame? Like, what is your life experience about? Where does your purpose lie? Where is your edge located? And be honest about it. You don't have to be the best, I'm not the most successful person in the world, but I'm true to where my edge is located. And that makes me exactly who I need to be right now.
You've been exactly who you need to be right now. And there's another thing about flow that Csikszentmihalyi says, and that flow exists. Well, something that must be present is the skills must be at the outer edge of the person's current skill set to meet the challenge that's just beyond that edge.
Yeah.
And that's where flow is present. We've definitely had lots of flow today, Dan. Mate, I'm looking
epic.
forward to continuing a conversation in some nature with you. And I know a lot of our listeners and viewers will be. Let's go have a coffee. Thanks for coming on Flow Zone, man.
Yeah, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.